The big problem Kenyans have today is that they're too used to being able to judge a leader by what they say rather than what they do. Before August 2022 and the aftermath, which we have seen in Kenya, you would join any political discussion within the borders of Kenya, and within a very short period of time you'd hear somebody said, so and so said this, and so said that. And the way they're saying it, they're taking as gospel truth what those leaders said. And remember, these are politicians we're talking about. Politicians the world over. For you to be able to analyze them accurately, understand them accurately, you need to focus on what they're not saying. That includes their body language. That includes especially their actions. After all, actions speak louder than words. And admittedly, Kenyans have matured overnight, and these days are really focusing on what the politicians are doing rather than what they are saying. However, there are very many things we still miss because politicians confuse us. And I'll give you the perfect example. Kenyans have always had their own issues with the judiciary. However, the regime of William Samoei Ruto have recently launched a major attack against the judiciary of Kenya. And here is where some Kenyans have really been fooled about this latest war against the judiciary. Because the truth is, this is not about cleaning up the judiciary. No! After all, it is because of this judiciary that this government came into power in a very suspect election. It is really very simple. To Ruto, the Constitution and the judiciary are an annoying nuisance, an obstacle to what he wants to do. The laws of Kenya, the Constitution, are slowing him down. They are really irritating him. And therefore the strategy is to intimidate the judiciary. It's just that simple. And by intimidating the judiciary, they will be less of a nuisance. He will be able to speed up ahead with his plans. Okay? And then we, the gullible people of Kenya, are dragged into his agenda without knowing. All he does is to appeal to emotions. We already know our judiciary very well. So all he does is remind us the judiciary is corrupt. And some of us quickly start supporting what he's trying to do. And yet, we know, the judiciary does not bring up cases in courts of law in the country. Who brings up these cases? The people of Kenya. And therefore, technically, the people slowing down Ruto's plans are not the judiciary. It is the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya are not doing this illegally. They're not doing something that is not right. All they're doing is using that wonderful instrument called our Constitution. Pure and simple. And therefore, Kenyan or some Kenyans take our Constitution, they go to court. Because even if the judiciary are not angels, their hands are tied by the Constitution. They can only go so far in their rulings. Even if a judge is very corrupt, the room around which he can operate and be corrupt is very limited. And it is limited by the written Constitution. And so who is really slowing down Ruto? It is not the judiciary, it is the people of Kenya. But what does Ruto want? Ruto wants the judiciary to trash the Constitution. Why? Because he wants to speed ahead with his plans, which he says will make life better for Kenyans. his untried and untested ideas and policies which are inconsistent, which will supposedly make life better for Kenyans. That is the true position in our country called Kenya. And those are the actions that shows very clearly the character of the Ruto regime. This is not propaganda. This is not criticizing the government. This is just giving you the bare facts which are in the public domain, which we can all see very clearly. Another example. Today, a battery of lawyers led by ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna camped in Kshs County. What was the issue? They are telling us that the life of Kshs Governor Simba Arati is in danger. Why? Because not only has His Excellency Arati been targeted by several incidences of violence, targeted directly at him, but in the most recent case, the lawyers have evidence that members of the police who have been named carrying automatic firearms used them as South Mugirango legislator Sylvanus Osoro get crushed as Simba Arati function. And what is more, the police have done nothing, despite reports being made to them. They have done nothing to arrest people who are breaking the law, including police officers. Now, I trust that we all know that the said police officers would never have done what they did without orders from above. They would not have done what they did without sanctioning from the government. No wonder the CS internal, Kithure Kindiki, has been very silent about this incident that has shocked Kenyans, the most recent one, where shots were fired. In fact, a bodyguard of Arati was injured, which clearly suggests the target of that attack. Because if I'm somewhere and my bodyguard gets injured, who was the target? Was it the bodyguard or was it me? Clearly, the target was Bwana Arati. And once again, this brings out the character of this government very clearly. It tells us that the use of violence in their political agenda, whatever that agenda is something normal for this government. The actions of these governments are telling us that very loudly and very clearly. Bottom line, Kenya is doomed with such an administration in power. Of course, this is not the first time we have seen a government use violence. During the reign of Kenya's second president, Daniel Arap Moi, violence was a favored state tool. Older Kenyans will know that tribal clashes were invented, and they were invented by the Moi regime. But I'm afraid in Kenya today, we have a much more serious problem, much more serious than what some of us witnessed under Daniel Arap Moi. Let me put it like this. Maturity is not a quality that can come anywhere near the KK regime, the Kenya Kwanza regime, and especially the UDA chaps. They are the very opposite of being mature. And the very, very bad news is most of us Kenyans don't realize just how serious that is, to be led by a regime that is not mature character-wise. Is it possible to lead a nation, any nation, without wisdom? And is it possible to have wisdom without maturity? But prepare to be shocked. The age of a person or the age of people does not necessarily mean that they are mature because they are old or because they are over 50 years old, etc., etc. No, there are other factors that come into play. Although admittedly, many leading lights within KK are very young fellows. Immaturity can also come about because of, wait for this one, a mental disease. Now, the attitude of most Kenyans to mental disease is very unfortunate because people don't take it seriously. People don't even want to understand what a mental illness is all about and how serious it can be. Now, I have a confession to make. Before the year 2022, I was in that group of Kenyans who have no idea. But then I got some very rude education, as a result of a personal tragedy. All these years, I've always believed that narcissistic personality disorder is something that only happens with the Zungus in the West. I had only seen it in movies, and even then I didn't fully understand what it was. But after my personal tragedy, and with the help of a dear subscriber on this channel, I went into a very steep learning curve. It was also very painful, and I learned a lot about what narcissistic personality disorder is. And I had to see it in action, live, to fully understand it. And I finally accepted that it must be an illness, because a normal human being cannot behave like that. Where a human being, a mother, can fail to have any empathy for their own flesh and blood. Because to a narcissist, even their flesh and blood means nothing, in comparison to themselves. They're the most important thing on earth. So much so that it is not a big deal to tell lies in public during the day in front of your own precious grandchildren, your own flesh and blood, without even thinking twice about the damage you're doing to your own flesh and blood grandchildren. What are Kenyans really complaining about today? They're complaining about lies. Check. They're complaining about lack of empathy. Check. They're complaining about ego. Check. They're complaining about arrogance. Check. Now, I've just completed a very intensive, thorough report, a special report, which I thought would be a weekly intelligence briefings. Actually 3 or 4 weekly intelligence briefings. But I had to stop myself in my tracks. Why? Because it is way too sensitive, even for my weekly intelligence briefings. And I have to ask you to forgive me, because I'm the one who knows where the shoe pinches, because it is me wearing the shoe. When you're not wearing the same shoe, it may be difficult to get you to understand. And therefore what I've decided to do is to make this special report video available only to 10 lucky members on this channel. And that'll be it, the first 10. And just to cover the time and cost taken putting it together, it's available only for $32. Because of the sensitivity of this material, I will never talk about it in any other video except this one. Just 10, and that's it. You can see on your screens right now the cost in Kenya shillings and what you have to do to get hold of this valuable report. Once again, my apologies. I produced a monster because when I started doing this research, I did not realize where it would take me. And it has taken me to a place where I really fear for a country called Kenya. We are really doomed. Only Almighty God can save us. Now all you have to do is follow the instructions on your screens right now. I will respond, but please don't forget to send me your email address so that I know where to send it, and then that will be that. For the rest of us, I suggest you do a bit of research on what narcissistic personality disorder is all about, the symptoms, and how the people who suffer from this mental disease behave, and how things usually end when you're in a relationship of any kind with this kind of person who has got this kind of mental illness. I know at least one person on this channel who has been through that very unfortunate circumstance, and years later they are yet to recover. It is something very, very serious that you'd not even wish on your worst enemy. And I need to emphasize, it is a disease, ni ugonjwa. Okay? Until next time, this is Chris. Kumekucha.